I'm excited to see where this conversation goes. But as always, the way I like to open it up, I really preach like people bragging on themselves and enjoying their own success. So, man, like I'm going to turn it over to you and let you kind of like introduce yourself, give a little bit of backstory, and we'll just rock and roll from there.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me on. For me, I'm young kid, born and raised in Mississippi, small town Taylorsville. Everyone kind of know where Hattiesburg is. It's where the University of Southern Miss is. So we're about 40 minutes from there. Um, Went to Auburn, played 4 years at Auburn. Last season of the 2004, we had an undefeated season. SEC Player of the Year that year, and what a special year. Ronnie Cadillac. We had about nine guys on the offense that played in the NFL off that team. And, it was just a credible season that year. Still a little upset, got robbed of the national championship, but
Yeah.
still a little small, bitter taste there. But, drafted into Washington at the time was Washington Redskins, now it's the Washington Commanders. And got a chance to play 10 years in the National Football League and started most of those years. And now, I'm doing color analyst for Auburn Radio and also help out with the collective.
Yeah. So what made you let's go there, like with commentating? I don't know what's the right word. Like broadcasting communication.
Yeah.
Like what made you kind of want to go down that route? Like once playing days were over.
Well, when I used to do so many interviews in the NFL, the quarterback, you're in front of the microphone all the time. And
Totally.
then once I was doing some New York stuff, I was going to CBS doing the NFL quarterback up there in New York. And then I was doing Washington NBC at the time, covering Washington Commanders for a couple of years. And then, Auburn, has always been like a second home for me. And,
Yeah.
being able to be a part of their radio broadcast for the last 7 years, doing pregame and postgame and halftime report. Stan White decided he wanted to retire from being the color analyst, spend more time with his kids on the weekend. And, I'm just now getting started. So, so for me, I feel like, okay, there may be a great opportunity to continue to build your platform, to give back to Auburn as well, to go down there to a school that you spend so much time at and kind of grew into a man and be a part of that family. And the main part for me is it's as close as you're gonna get to the game of football. Is being in that booth calling game play by play alongside Andy Bertram. So I'm excited about the opportunity. Things kick off here in about 3 weeks, so
Yeah, it's
it'll
around the
be here
corner.
upon us soon. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you get to obviously like everybody that listens knows that like my big message is the ability to ultimately like grow athletes' identity, right? Like steer them and help them like discover and uncover like who they are and their full potential. And then like as they leave high school, college, and wherever, whether that's a career, whether that's an athletic career, do you get to spend some time, being around players down there? Do you get to like have conversations and kind of like, I mean, obviously with the success that you had as a player, it's, you would want, if I was a player, right, I would want to be able to pick your brain and have conversations and like, what'd you like? What'd you not like? What could you have done differently? Do you get those opportunities to just kind of like, I call it mentoring kind of on the
Yeah.
side, a lot of those guys?
Yeah, I definitely get a lot of those now because, being in the NIL space, helping a lot of these guys try to make decisions, help them make wise choices as far as, some guys that's gone before you, try to learn as much as you possibly can. I think for them, that puts you in a mentor role, where you're trying to help them off the field as well as on the field and how to deal with both. We didn't get paid in college when I came through. So now it's a different playing field. And now these kids have got to be able to juggle, off field success as well as on field success and not get the big head, but also stay humble enough to show gratitude and appreciation for the people that is involved in giving them an opportunity to build some financial success for themselves. So that's been very interesting, because you got to deal with parents, you got to deal with agents, it just you got to deal with these whoever what they call themselves, get themselves a name that's
Yeah.
involved in the kid name. You got to, so it's just a lot of different layers. But at the same time, I'm excited about it because I do get a chance to help make a difference. And I just think for me, I always tell these guys, man, it's all about relationships. I say you can't get so hung up on to having your hand out. What can I get? What can I get from this and that? but take the time to build relationships with people, because that is what lasts a lot longer. And then as you get older, people want to deal with you more. They'll want to create opportunities for you. Just because you took the time when you was in your highlights, I call it, playing career, you took the time to spend time with people and get to know people and not brush them off.
Yeah. I think it's, man, that's like obviously like one of the major messages too is helping 18, 19, 20-year olds think long term, i.e., like
Right.
building those relationships versus like the short term of like, can I get a little bit of money now? Like what can you do for me right now versus like the ability to see 5, 7, 10 years like down the future of
Right.
like, man, like if I genuinely get to know this person, what opportunities that might pay 10x dividends like on the backside of this is like super important um to help them understand, because we can go down the rabbit hole of like delayed gratification, right? Like, and how important that is, and versus, kind of the microwave results. I know that's kind of a hot topic right now, but I think that's super important. And hopefully they have a lot of like open ears, so to speak, in terms of welcoming that knowledge, welcoming that wisdom, so to speak.
Well, a lot of it is, let's just be honest, a lot of these kids, once they leave college, what's the percentage of guys that go to the NFL that play on Sundays? It's not a huge percentage.
Right.
It's a very small percentage, and they don't realize that, because ever since they've been in high school, everyone's told them how great they've been, how super athletic they've been, and all they can see is the next level, to the time that they don't even appreciate where they are most of the time. The hardest part is, some of these guys make pretty good money in college off their name, image, and likeness. And then if they don't make it to the next level, they have to start off at a regular job, and that regular job pay may not even be anywhere close to what they're getting right now from an NIL perspective. And it's gonna be a blow to them, and they not gonna understand. Like, dude, you're in the real world. You got to start somewhere and build up.
Yeah.
Like, you're not wearing that jersey on TV and everything anymore. So that's why I tell them to save your money. If you get to your senior year, you see you got an opportunity to play at the next level, then you can kind of do some things a little differently. But
Right.
if you get to that point and you see yourself, okay, NFL may not be for me, NBA may not be for me, Major League Baseball may not be for me. If you find that out, you're still leaving college with more than 95% of college students when they leave college to start their life and their careers, because you don't have any student loan debt that most college kids have to pay back student loan debt. I just like,
100%.
and then you have money in your pocket to start off without pressure, because you have saved for the last 4 years. And that's if you save for the last 4 years. So that's why I try to tell them as freshmen to start now.
How honest are people with them about like, especially like when they're coming in, right? Like it's
Mhm.
just math, right? Like it's 1 to
Right.
2%. It's not that like you're not good or like that you couldn't
Right.
like excel there, but it's just like opportunity and math. And I'm always curious about, because I feel like some people can get very delusional. It's like, no, 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 like it's gonna happen. I'm like, it might, right? Like it very well
Right.
can, but it's also very limited. So I'm curious about like, is that part of like your role like as well too, in terms of just being honest, like, hey man, bust
Yeah.
your ass, like I get it, like put put your chips on the
Yeah.
table in terms of like trying to get to the next level, but also understand and know it, again, it's just math, right? Like
Right.
it may not
Yeah, I
happen.
try to be honest. Yeah, I try to be honest as possible, as much as I can be, but also keeping in mind that you don't want to discourage them either,
Right.
So you want to kind of keep that hope there, but also being realistic with them. So for me, is the biggest part is, you know, every 5-star that comes to college think they're going to the next level.
Yep.
If you actually Google how many 5-stars actually make it to the next level, it'll be mind blowing. There's more 3-stars and 4-stars that make it to Sundays than 5-stars. And what's the reason behind that? Well, a lot of it could be, what's your competition level in high school?
Hmm.
Because sometimes you can just be a man amongst boys where you're just peaking more than other kids are at that time. And then everyone's been patting you on your back since you've been a youngster, and you feel like you've arrived. So then your antennas stop listening, because now you're plugging your ears because you think you know it all. And then you get to these big stages in college, and all of a sudden you got to rewrite the script, and then the coaches is on your butt, and then you're just, you're not used to it, and then all of a sudden you kind of get deflated. Or sometimes, guys are just now reaching their peak that wasn't
Mm-hmm.
at their peak in high school, but now their peak is coming on in college, and it's almost like you're just sitting there as a sitting duck stuck in mud,
Yeah.
and they're just passing you by because they have been working harder than you since they've been in high school, because they wasn't getting those pat on the backs. You was comfortable, they was working, and now you got to try to reverse your psychology to work as hard as they do. So, it's just understanding that, and a lot of it, some guys, they just, it's a lot of pressure for a lot of these kids, man. Some of these families put a lot of pressure on these kids, and and it's not their job to have to, responsibly at that age, they have to take care of situations, but they can help out if they can. But a lot of families put a lot of pressure on these kids to try to, hey, take care of everything, and that's just not fair. And and that I try to come in and help the family understand, hey, put yourself in that kid's shoe at an 18 to 22-year-old, and then see how much pressure you're putting on them. Like, that's a huge burden. And then the kid got to go to class. He got to play ball. Like, try to release some of that burden. Like, give him a bill or two that he can help out with, not the entirety of everything, And if he's fortunate enough to go to the next level, then he can help you out more. But if he or she doesn't, at least they can start their life not in the hole,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but they still was able to help you a little bit while they can. But make sure they got something when they leave college.
Yeah, it's interesting too. Is I can't imagine. Obviously like pulled in a bunch of different directions. I've been around some like professional athletes where I've heard on speakerphone family members say, "Yes, but you owe me," and I'm like, not really,
Yeah,
right? Like if
that's
you want to help out, like that's your prerogative, right? Like
right.
you went through this entire journey, like you did this. Yes, they gave you an opportunity, right? Like when you were younger, they took you to practice. They said they did all those things, but ultimately now it's like it's your decision how much like you want
Hmm.
to give. I'm like, you don't owe anything. So I can't
Right.
imagine if that's happening at professional level now, like you said, is the amount of money like kids, like literally teenagers can
Right.
make in college, how many directions they're pulled in from, unfortunately, the ones closest to them, right? Family and
Right.
friends, right? Like
Right.
it's crazy.
And they got good hearts. Most of them got good hearts, and they want to see everyone win, and everything. And just unfortunately, like 10, 15 years after their careers over, they got nothing to show for everything they did, because they tried to do too much for everybody. And then when it's over with, those same people are not saying, hey man, here's something back for what you did. Like, you don't get that. That's don't then it doesn't ever happen. Like, just learn from the Antoine Walkers. Like, guy that made 150 million. Allen Iverson made over 300 some million. And luckily for him, Reebok had put money away for him until he turned a certain age, and when they was able to give him a whole bunch of millions, that instead of giving it to him back then, they resorted it to later, and
Yeah.
that benefited him so much. You just have to learn, because man, I gotta tell these young kids, not everybody around you is happy for you, or like you. Some people are gonna try to find a way to take advantage of the situation or ride the coattail, and then some's gonna be real with you, and they're gonna be honest with you and tell you sometimes what you don't want to hear. Them the ones you need to stick around, because
Mm-hmm.
them the ones just being honest with you and not just looking for something from you. They want to see what's best for you. And I was fortunate enough to have a good family, good parents. Ever didn't ever put pressure on me to have to do anything I wanted to do just came from my heart. And it's because I say this: your parents raised you the right way. They've been there for you and they sacrificed for you. You will see it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you will see it. They won't have to say anything. They won't have to say nothing. Like, when you get yourself in a position, it'll be certain things you will want to do for them. It'll get to the point where they have to say, hey, you've done enough. You're
Yeah.
good. You've done enough. You know what I'm saying? Because of how they raise you, and you see the position that they're in. So that's why I try to tell, like, that's the worst thing that as a parent you can tell a kid, is that you owe me. When you have a kid, you are a parent to raise that kid to the best of their abilities, to what they supposed to do. So when they enter out into the real world, they become really good adults.
Yeah.
If they don't come back and give you 1 cent, they don't owe you anything. Like you chose to have kids and you chose to for them to come into this world, and your job is to take care of them, not have to take from them. Like,
Oh man.
yeah, so you got to flip that mindset, man. And like I always say, don't worry. Any kid I've ever known, successful in business, successful in pros, successful in entrepreneurship, when they got something, man, they did something for their parent, whether they had money or not. They did something for them because they wanted to show how much they love them. And sometimes some people love language is given. Some people
Hmm.
love language is time. Everybody's different, so they don't have to worry, man. But a lot of them parents mess themselves up and they mess the relationship up with their kids because they put that pressure on them and they make them feel like they owe something. Now resentment and all this stuff starts to come in, and then all of a sudden now you don't have a relationship no more because money has broken up your household.
It's crazy. Even like right, deaths in the family and all that. It's crazy. Like those
Yeah,
things, how like money is the ultimate wedge
yeah,
journey, right? Like
yep.
it's totally crazy. Um, so let's shift gears slightly when you're talking about like as a player, as a competitor, and the ability to be on a successful, high performing team. So like in your perspective, like what is let's go surface level first in terms of like what's the difference between like an average performing team and like one that's super high performing, i.e., you're undefeated, coulda, shoulda, woulda been in like the national championship. Like that's an extremely high level performing team versus maybe the year or two before that. Like, what do you feel like is that differentiates those?
Yeah, it's a difference. I remember my junior year, everyone had us preseason. Some polls had us at number one, anywhere from 1 to 5. And that was supposed to be the year that everyone picked us to go and win a title. And we had all the talent, but we switched coordinators. Our coordinator left, Bobby Petrino, our sophomore year. He left and took the job. I think he went to Louisville and he
Okay.
became the head coach at Louisville. So we had to hire another offensive coordinator. So instead of us hiring a coordinator, we moved one of our offensive line coach. We moved our offensive line coach to coordinator. And people thought just because you can put someone in a position that all of a sudden they know how. I like coordinator is like a magician. Like
Yeah.
you have to be able to set things up in the third and fourth quarter based on what you call in the first and second quarter. And you can have all the talent in the world, but you have got to know what to do with the talent and
Hmm.
how to get the best out the talent in order to reach that kind of level of success and pinnacle. So at the end of that junior year, we go 8-5, showing 9-4. We go 8-5, and then at the end of that year, I give kudos to our offensive line coach because he went back to being our O line coach, and then our head coach ended up hiring an offensive coordinator. And then Al Borges came in as an offensive coordinator, and he looked at all the talent we had, and he knew how to get everybody involved. And it wasn't no, we're gonna do this the most. It was just we're gonna do what's best for Auburn and
Hmm.
what the defense weakness is. We're gonna attack. So if it's
Yeah.
passing, we're gonna pass it. If it's running, we're gonna run it. It wasn't we're just gonna run the ball against an 8-man box just because we want to be stubborn. That's the only thing we know what to do. We're gonna utilize the passing attack. And that's what we did, man. We became a well balanced oil machine. Like people couldn't stop the run, couldn't stop the pass. You had to make a decision. And also guys cared about just winning. It wasn't about draft status. It wasn't about, I'm reading preseason hype. I want to make sure that I'm positioning myself to be where I need to be. All that was out the door. It was all about the team. It was all about, and the best example of that is Cadillac and Ronnie, two running backs that came back for senior year, and one didn't care how many carries this one got a game, how many
Hmm.
carries that one got a game. Like I tell all these guys, I say, y'all get caught up in the records. I said, I could have broke every passing record in Auburn if they would allow me to throw the ball more.
Right.
I said, but that's not what they wanted to do early on. I said, Cadillac could have broke every rushing record at Auburn if we wanted to continue just running the ball the way we did the first couple of years. But he realized too, like we wanted to win, we
Hmm.
need to let our passing attack and let our receivers get more involved in the game. Ronnie understood that too. Ronnie didn't even start, and he was the number 2 pick in the draft. And he only touched the ball maybe 12 rushes a game average. So that's why I tell the kid, yeah, you get caught up into the wrong stuff. You just got to give your all and be a team player, and it'll always come back in your favor because what happened is you win a lot of games, you get all the attention in the world that you want, and then all of a sudden you get drafted as high as you could imagine. I said because you're winning. I like you
Yep.
losing, no one cares like that. So guys got to change their mindset, man. We live in such a society where everything is about selfishness. I got to put myself in front of the team because I feel like if I do that, I'm gonna get more deals. People gonna, come try to give me more money. Like money has kind of ruined a lot of things right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like that seems like to be the only thing that's on people's mind, and it's taking away some of the integrity of the kids and some of the logic of being a team player, being a team, being a team person. Put team first, and then all your individual goals will follow. So it's hard to tell 18 to 22-year-olds that now, but honestly, they have to look at that and see it like it's true, and because we won our '04 year with less talent than we had our 2003 year.
No
And,
shit.
so
So when you guys like as you guys entered into like your senior season, was it very like one track minded? Was it to go after a national title? Was it to go after a conference championship? Did like the frustration like spur you guys? Like how, because like as I talk to teams, I find it very, I'll tell you kind of where I'm going with this too, is I find it super powerful when a collective group can go after a single mission, right? It's not all these different scattered goals and records and everything else because everyone's rowing in 15, 20 different freaking
right.
directions. So like the raft isn't going anywhere versus it seemed like, and that's why I'm asking is like you guys went from like junior to senior season. It was like that's what we want. This sucked. Let's go do that. Was that kind of like the conversation, I guess, locker room conversation, so to speak?
Yeah, really, because our sophomore year, we went 9-4, but we lost 3 games, like 3 games ridiculous. We should have been in a BCS. So we missed a 5-yard field goal in Florida to win the
Oh,
game. And on the 5-yard line to win that game in the swamp. We 4th and 15 against Georgia. Our defensive back falls down in the back of the end zone, and there Michael Johnson catches the ball in the back of the end zone for a touchdown to win that game. USC, we go out to USC and we drop a crossing route going into the end zone to win that game. And we end up 9-4, and we could have been 12-1 and probably playing the BCS game.
right.
So we realized how close we were, just 3 plays from being 12-1. But then our junior year, like I said, once we changed everything, and there's no doubt in my mind, if Bobby Petrino been there our junior year, we would have been in the BCS. But
Yeah.
when we changed everything, now you're starting over again. So then you go through some chaos, right? You go through some tough times. Like things are not going your way. Things are going total opposite than it did the year before. And you look up, you like, dang, we 8-5. Like we just 9-4. We supposed to be going up,
Yeah.
and we went down one. And everything, but you learn through your hardest times teaches you the most about yourself and about your team. We learned so much about ourselves that year and about our team to the point when we got to the off season, we knew what we had to throw out, and we knew what our mindset had to change in order for us to be the team that we wanted to be that senior year. And everything was just aligning. We got the right offensive coordinator. We got, the right pieces in place. Now, do our mindsets all get to the right place? And do our confidence get back to where it needs to be? So we learned how to win and fight after we started off our '03 season 0-2, and then going through some trying time. We rip off 5 in a row, and then we lose again. So it was just an up and down roller coaster. But we learned through that, which taught us valuable lessons when we got to our senior year, where we got into those tough games and game is on the line, not to flinch, because we know what it felt like to lose some of those tough games because we didn't do certain things. So we was more mature on things as well. So, you can learn your biggest lessons in life, your biggest lessons in sports through defeats than you can wins. That's just a fact because when you win, sometimes you overlook those little things that you could have lost
Yeah.
by, but when you lose, you go back to every little detail and you just be like, dang, man, we lost because of this or that. And, I didn't do this, I didn't do that enough. And you just go back and dissect everything. And when you go back and dissect everything, now you don't even know it, but you're teaching yourself and you're growing as a player not to make those same mistakes over and over. And that's how you become a better football team.
Yeah, I always say too, it's like I know a lot of people call it like looking in the mirror, so to speak, but like I think it's so important to be able to like analyze like your current reality, like where you are
Mhm.
right now. It's so easy for people to dream and talk about like their future reality and the things that they want a year from now. But like the analogy I always give, like if you're going to punch something in Google Maps, it's got to know where you are right now before it can
Right.
send you anywhere. And I find even me personally, it's like I've had to learn this is like being insanely like stupid honest about like what's my situation right now, like who am I right now, and like there's a reason I'm not getting what I want, whatever it be, starting a
Mhm.
business and an actual like sports outcome. It could be a financial thing, it could be a relationship, right? And so yeah, I think that that's really important for people to understand, because a lot of people off like a chaotic situation like that can revert to just like, oh, I'm just going to go try harder, right? And I
Right.
think that they lack the reflection side of it,
Right.
to like propel them forward.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like a lot of folks just sometimes people don't know how to accept criticism.
Yeah.
We live in a fragile time, where people don't understand what constructive criticism is. I tell my nephews this all the time that's involved in sports and guys are like, do you want to be coached hard or you want a coach to just let you do what you want to do? I said, because if you want to be a great player, then you want to be coached hard. Like if a coach is not saying anything to you, then he's probably either one, giving up on you because you don't listen, or two, he just moving on to the next player. And I like, so you want someone that's gonna push you, grind you, because that's how they're gonna get the best out of you. And don't look at it as criticism. Look at it
Hmm.
as constructive coaching. Someone is trying to make you as a parent. You're not gonna tell your kid everything they just want to hear all the time, and
Yeah.
they're doing something wrong and they can do it better, but you just gonna sit there and let them do it anyhow. No, you're gonna get on to them and you're gonna try to get them to see what you see so they don't keep making the same mistake. So it's the same way when it comes to sports, same way in life. That's why I love sports and life. It goes hand in hand. Like I said, it teaches you a lot about how to get back up. It teaches you a lot about if you're winning, how to keep winning as far as like, humbleness, keeping your same mindset, all those type of things. It just teaches you so much. That's why I encourage a lot of kids, you don't have to play sports in college, you don't have to play sports in pros, but I just always say, man, get involved in some form of
Hmm.
sport when you're a teenager, when you're young. Like you may not even be the best player on the team. You may not even start on the team, but you're on a team
Yep.
and but you're learning all team aspects of something.
Hmm.
It doesn't even have to be sports. Get involved in band, get involved in cheer, whatever. Just get involved with something that has a team asset to it because it teaches you to get out of that individualism and
Right. Right.
become part of a team.
Yeah. What about your role, maybe even been larger, like in your professional career? Like you said, playing quarterback, a lot of spotlight. How did you, like what did at that time, maybe early on, like leadership actually mean to you? And like, how did that grow and evolve, like through your time at Auburn and even into like your professional career? Cause I'm sure it's probably two different types of leadership from like collegiate to professional.
Yeah, collegiate leadership is, you're a quarterback, I couldn't do things the same as my teammates did. As they are out all times of the night, I had to be different. I had to show them that I was more dedicated as far as like learning my craft because I'm a leader of the team, right? So
Right.
I wanted to make sure I was leading by example and not just leading by words. I wanted my teammates to see what I was doing as far as like, hey, I'm putting in the work, but I'm also sacrificing certain things in order to have success,
Hmm.
and so you got to give up some things, you got to sacrifice some things. And to the point where I used to see me come around. If I came out at nighttime, they see me around, they'd be like, "Oh man, like you out tonight?" I'm like, "Come on, man, I'm a college kid. Of course I'm gonna go out
Yeah.
sometimes." I was just like, "But you're just not gonna see me out that much during the season because during the season my focus was just different, and everything. So you have to sacrifice something if you want to get something. I think in the NFL it's a little different because you're dealing with grown men when you first come into a locker room. You may be. When I went to Washington, I was like one of the youngest guys on the team. And they was a pretty veteran football team and everything. And so it changes a little bit because you're like, okay, how do I get these grown men to like accept me,
Right.
saying, and everything. But then I learned too, man, just be yourself. Like be yourself. Don't change who you are. I've learned that if I gotta change who I am for you to accept me, then just be it, because I'm not doing that,
Yeah.
like, because I'm gonna get out of who I am as a person. So I feel like if I do what I'm supposed to do and who I am, then the right people will come into your circle, and then you won't have to try to fight to get into a circle. Like, you would just be accepted. and
Yeah.
uh and that's what I did. I just kind of was myself, continue to work hard, continue to mingle with everybody and talk with everybody, and build relationships, and then you get accepted, and
Yeah.
everything. So my leadership skills kind of changed a little bit because one, when I became more of a man in pros, now you're really dealing with money. You're really dealing with the aspect of, you're a leader of a football team, a national football team. As a starter, there's only 32 jobs in America at that position. And then you're in Washington, DC, you're in the Oakland Raiders, you're in these big cities, and you know, basically fan bases that are thick because of
Yeah.
their past success. So there's just so much that you have to lead and be example of, and everything. So all that taught me so much now to where I can teach a lot of young athletes, where I can teach a lot of even grown people. And I go and talk to grown people, and I talk to these like quarterback clubs, or I go speak at different functions and I talk to them about team building, and everything. I go to the whole aspect of what it was like to team build, and a lot of them really appreciate it because they say, well, it's no different than being in a workforce, and we're trying to get everyone on the same page
Totally.
as far as team building. So a lot of that I've done a lot of that, and it's been kind of successful because they think we're so different, but then they realize how unique it is because we are so much alike.
Yeah. And I feel like too, going back to like the moment like you entered the locker room as well, is like people just want to be around like human beings, right? Like don't be
Mm-hmm.
weird, don't be funny acting,
Right.
like don't
Right.
like you said, try to be something that you're not, like talk about things that you like to talk about. Like
Right.
they have families too, they have friends too, they probably have pets too, right? Like it's just be a human, right? Like, and I think
Right.
that more so than not, that draws like, whether it's probably the same in like the entertainment world, like movie stars and actors, is people just view them as like this like superhero. But if you sat down with them and just asked them like, hey, how's your family, like how's like, you build, going back to
Yeah.
relationships really fast, because most of those people just want to be treated like a human being.
Right. Right. That's what most people want to be. Most people just want to be treated like, just, with care,
Yeah.
that you care about them, and that, and everything like that. Like, that's, and respect. That's the
Totally.
biggest thing you can ask for, is just, someone to respect you and care about you, and like that, because no one wants to feel left out.
Yeah.
Like, that's like the lonely feeling. You don't want to feel left out. That's why, as a quarterback, it's so important you talk to everybody on the team, even all the way down to the walk-ons if you're in college, because they get you prepared for the games if you're a
Mhm.
starter, so they're just as important to the team as everyone else, because they have a job to do as well. So when people realize that everyone has a job to do and everyone is important, things flow better,
Yeah.
and everything. And you don't look down on people because they're not in the same position that you are. That's the worst mistake someone can make, because what happens to a lot of athletes is when they're in high positions, if some of them look down on others, and then when their careers are over with, it reverses because
Mhm.
they moved up, and now you don't have that helmet on, or you're not shooting that basketball or whatever. No one's coming up to you like that no more. and now you can't deal with it. But then you got to go back and look at yourself and be like, how are you towards people when you was on that platform?
Yeah.
Now you don't have that platform no more. People don't want to touch you because why? Probably because your attitude and the way you treated folks. You thought because you was getting so much money that made you who you are. Like, no one cares about someone that makes a whole bunch of money and they're a jerk.
Right.
Like, you're just a jerk with money.
Yeah.
So so be a good human being.
Yeah. And I think too, I find it like fascinating is like, I think along that journey as well in sports specifically is like being able to like understand like your value as a person too, because I feel like a lot of people, once they get out of that spotlight, so to speak, once their career is over and they've made all the money, is they resort back, they try to live off of the jersey, right? They try to live
Yeah.
off of, and it's like, man, like you're 30, let's call it, right? Like you've got 50, 60, 70, 80 years of like living left. It's like, is that like what you're going to resort to for the next 60 years? Like, hopefully not. Hopefully you can take a step back, but like have way more value to offer this world
Yeah.
than what I did for these first 30 years. Let me go figure this out and let me pour into people, humans, the community, um, like whatever it is, a completely different way. Is
All right.
That's probably one of the most fascinating parts to me as well.
Yeah, that's the great part is, shoot, think about it. Most people don't reach their pinnacle of their careers, whether it's financially or whether it's just business wise, until probably mid 50s to early
Yeah.
60s. If you're an athlete that played professional, you got a chance to build it really quick early, but now it's all about sustaining.
Hmm.
How do you sustain this for the next 50, 55 years? How do you sustain what you gotten? Because now that's the most important piece is it's not how much you made, but how much can you keep and sustain to keep building off of. Um, that's the biggest challenge for young people that they don't understand is they don't look at the future. They just look at now.
Hmm.
And then when the future hits them, they're like, "Uh-oh, no one told me that, about this or that." Like, no, kids are getting NIL now, and some of them are getting really good NIL. So my thing is, dude, while you're getting really good NIL, keep stacking, because if you come out of college and say you got $300,000 in your bank account, you never play a down a professional ball. You know what a lot of college students will do with $300,000 in their bank account to start their life out with a
Yeah. Yeah.
career at 23 years old, 22, 23 years old. Like, at 40, instead of being 55 and 60 when they start reaching their pinnacles, at 40, they will be reaching their pinnacles
Yeah.
because they got such a big head start, and that's the thing about it. Yes, do your bodies take a hit when you're playing, especially these football sports and stuff? Yeah, you gotta take care of your body. You got an ice tub, you gotta do a lot of different things. You gotta continue to exercise. Even when I finished playing ball, I exercise now just as much as I did when I played ball
Hmm.
because my body's used to it. And if I don't do it, it'll break down,
Totally.
So, you have to keep pouring into your health. You got to keep pouring into all those type of things. And I always tell these guys, look, just don't stop playing ball and just chill at home. Like, you got more to life to do and give than just play ball. Like,
Hmm.
you know, so get involved with different things, and just don't sit around and just, yes, you can go play golf and do things, but you got more to life to give. Like, it's not just about, oh, I'm gonna make as much money as I can when I'm playing ball and I'm just gonna chill. No,
Right.
like, there's so much more for you to do.
Well, and that's how, I mean, it's like if you're not growing, you're dying. And I think that's literal,
Yeah.
right? I think that like
Hmm.
if you just in life, if you take a step back and like, okay, I've made enough money. Now I'm just gonna like sit for 30 or
Right.
40 more, like you're literally dying, right? Like you're literally
Right.
just kind of like rotting away faster and faster. Yeah. What do you think? Couple more questions. What do you think is from teams or programs or companies that like you've been around is like what do you feel like from a team standpoint is like some of the biggest like performance gaps to get from point A to point B? Like teams that have the potential, have the talent, have the skill, they have the pieces in place, but they're not getting the results that they want? Or is, I mean, I guess it theoretically could be individual. You know, I've had conversations with people. It's like, I feel like I'm doing everything, but I always come up short, right? Like, what would be from your experience and conversations, is areas to focus on potentially from a team or individual standpoint?
I think when you say team, you have to figure out, okay, what's the team's most ultimate goal?
Yeah.
You know, of course, in sports, it's like winning. You know, in business, what's your ultimate goal in team business? You know, what does success look like for the team? I think first you have to identify what that is. You know, because that's different for everybody. Um, I think once you can identify what that is and what the goal is, then you can start to work towards the goal. You know, if you're just working for something, but you don't have a goal or, anything like that, like you're supposed to have an end goal, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't have an end goal, you're just floating, and so you're never going to really feel like how you want to feel about something because you never really set a goal.
Right.
You're just floating. I think always set goals and everything. And if you fall short of it, like continue to keep going. Like every goal I ever set in life, it didn't come easy. It was always a curve or a roller coaster that you had to get through and to achieve that goal. It's the same way in team sports. Sometimes you can just, like in the NFL, you can either be drafted into a good team already and it's a well-oiled machine and you just fall right in, or you can get drafted to a team that's struggling and franchise kind of all over the place, and it can become frustrating because it seems like it's so much noise on the outside than it is on trying to build a team the right
Right.
way.
Right.
So it's just so many different aspects of it and everything. But I just say from an individual person, set realistic goals, and then once you start to knock down some of those, continue to set more goals and everything. I just really think that way. Even in marriage, I've been married now for like a year and 6 months. Me and my wife always
Congrats.
set goals. Now, I appreciate it. Like we always set goals, for ourselves, whether it's how many kids we would love to have, what do we see ourselves doing together in our future? What do we see how do we feel like we're growing individually together? Just checking in with each other,
Mm-hmm.
like and everything and just figuring out like, okay, how do we keep, stacking steps together, but making sure that we're doing it together. That's the key. You can still have your individual, assets, things that you like to do as far as like, I may want to like for her, she may have been you know, a lawyer or something, I don't want to take that from her, what I'm saying? Like you
Yeah.
good at it, keep doing it. I want to encourage you in it. For me, like I wanted to do coaching or my broadcast and stuff that I do, my podcast shows, like she don't want to keep me from doing it. She want to encourage me to do it. Like how can I be of a help system more than a tear you down system? Same way in team. How can I help my teammate achieve their goals without tearing them
Mm.
down? And so all that stuff goes hand in hand in everything that we do is from that mindset of, first, serving others. You get energy from serving other people, not just yourself.
Yeah.
Um, just think about you do something good for somebody, it makes you feel really good,
Totally.
Yeah, like so learn how to serve others, how to be around others, and how to diffuse conflict. That's a huge one. How do you diffuse conflict? Um, because sometimes you can be too loud and that just creates bigger problems.
Right. Right.
How do you diffuse conflict without making it a bigger conflict? That's a huge one, and everything. That's, especially in companies, man, like you got to diffuse the situation, right? I always have this thing of, whew, before I react, let me take 3 seconds to see what it would do to me, how it would affect me if I
Right.
react in the wrong way. So, just step back for a minute sometimes and just think about, the consequences more than your reaction.
Yeah. It's amazing. I think the biggest piece, like the word, like one, if I had to sum a lot of that up in one word, is just like freaking clarity, right? Like just
Right.
know where, like what you want in a relationship, know where you want to go. And
Right.
I think that so many athletes that shit, even coaches talk to, it's like
Yeah.
this idea of like wanting more confidence, right? Like we want more confidence. We want more confidence. I'm like, one, you don't even know what confidence is. And like number two is like clarity is going to give you that confidence. Right now, you
Right.
literally lack clarity. You have no idea who you are. You have no idea what you like what your non-negotiables are for this team. You have no idea, like they don't know the direction they're headed. They're just
Right.
feeding you, they're just telling you answers that you want to hear because they're trying to end this team meeting because shit, they don't want to be here.
Right. Right.
And so I think getting that like honest clarity is it's literally everything, like you just said, especially like in relationships. And that can be marriage, that can be intimate relationships, that can be
Mm-hmm.
friendships, that can be team relationships with teammates. Because I always say is it's funny, like in talking with a lot of college athletes, it's like now they're like in that juncture of like where dating becomes more serious and things like that.
Right.
And so I always ask them like what's the primary like reason you would get into a relationship and throw a bunch of answers out. I'm like, well, hopefully this is somebody you're going to spend a decent amount of time with, probably more
Yeah.
so than like most of your other friends. And I was like, you hit it spot on. It's like you want to be around somebody that's going to help you grow, right? Like
Right.
with what you're doing, whether it's your podcast, your broadcasting, or like she's a lawyer, right? Like you want somebody to
Yeah.
like support you and like elevate you in those areas versus like tear you down, keep you stagnant. I think that going back to what you said earlier is so many people selfish. I don't know if that's the right word, but like wanting more for themselves or viewing themselves as like, hey, like you have to support me, you have to help me.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, it goes back to the same. The old saying is, give a person money that show you more of who they are.
yeah. Yeah,
You
you said it
know,
earlier. Yeah, you did. Yeah,
yeah,
it's like
like I said,
the money
like
would jerk.
all right,
You're just an asshole with more
all
money.
right. Exactly. So fortunately, it's true. Like, I've seen people differently when they didn't have money, and then once they got money, you're like, oh, like it just shows you more who you already are.
Yep, totally.
Mm.
All right, last question. So one of the things like I really want to focus on is like I think in a lot of these conversations, I know myself and you probably do too, it's like we have like a core message that we want to share to the world or whatever. So the example like one of my coaches gave me, if you were in a stadium with 1,000 people and you could only leave them like with one message, one idea, one concept, like what would that message be from you?
Ooh, that's a deep one. That's a deep one. I would just say know what your worth is.
Mm,
Know what your worth is. Like no one knows that more than you. Challenge yourself. I always tell people, man, to challenge themselves to be greater, than where they are. Don't become comfortable because and stop comparing. Comparison is the thief of joy. If you're always comparing, you can never be happy with what you have because you're always worried about what somebody else is getting. And doing that is everything that you have is taken away from you. You'll wish you had that back. So stop comparing. If you stop comparing and work hard, what's meant for you will be there for you. But like I always say, challenge yourself to do more because at the end, and as you continue to keep growing through life, the worst thing that can happen to you is that you look back and you say, I wish I'd have done this, or I wish I'd have done that, or if I'd have did this, or if I'd have did that. And the reason I say that because growing up in a small town like I did, people didn't think that you can make it out of those small places. I'm talking about less than 2,500 people in a city, and we didn't even have social media back then. And they found a way to find a small kid in Taylorsville, Mississippi, and come out of high school as a top 3 quarterback in the nation, and then go on to be an SEC Player of the Year and play in the National Football League from a small town, probably one of the smallest towns in the U.S. No, I didn't have to do anything extra, but just work hard,
yeah.
and everything found a way to find me. And that's why I try to tell people, man, like your work ethic and what you want in life, it will find you if you put it out there in the atmosphere. God to find a way to put those people in place to find you. But you gotta, more importantly, for yourself, you gotta want more. A lot of people want things, but they want people to do it for them. Like, no, you got to show that you want it. And then people will support your mission because they see that you want it. But you can't tell me you want something, but then all of a sudden you're not doing stuff to show that you want it. You just basically hanging out because you want someone to do it for you. So, all those things come to mind when I think about things, because I think about growing up, and I think about the guys that laughed at me because I would do my homework when I finished school before I went out. Guys that say, "Oh man, you're not gonna make it. Like you're a fazzler." I used to keep that stuff with me because it was so much hate. It seemed like instead of you being happy for me and supporting me, being from the same community, you're hoping I fail.
Right.
So because you feel that way, now you're motivated me to even prove you wrong more so. And really, it's not even about proving them wrong because I can care less. But I wanted to show other kids that come from that area that you can make it out of a small place, and that you can go on and do great things in life, and that you don't have to listen to the naysayers or the doubt, that people say, "Oh boy, you shooting at a dream that's not there."
Right.
Like my parents always encouraged me in my dream, and so I want to always encourage young people in their dreams, because it's not my dream, it's their dream. So if it's their dream and they believe that they can achieve it, then I want to support it,
Yeah.
so and everything. So I would just say that, man, is just don't have the what ifs, don't have the wish I coulda. Eliminate that and have the want to want something, but show that you want it and not expect people to just do things for you or take care of it for you.
Yeah. 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 I'd say like probably one of the biggest things that I extracted from that excerpt right there is the idea that like you saw your value early on and it was just like, I'm not going to freaking quit. Like
Right.
somebody's gonna have to tell me it's over. Somebody's gonna have to tell me it's done. Somebody's gonna have to tell me like you didn't make it, you didn't get drafted, nobody
Right.
picked you up, you didn't get the scholarship, like whatever it is. But like I know my value, and until somebody like it's humanly not possible, it's like I'm just gonna
Right.
keep going. And
Right.
I think a lot of people that's super important for most people because I think a lot of people because there's this idea of things should happen so fast, it's like people walk away from dreams and people walk away from goals and people walk away from things so early without even really, really, really trying. Like nowadays, people try things for a week and they think that that's like exhausting.
Right.
I'm like, dude, it might take decades, right? Like you have no
Right.
idea, right? Going back to, I think when people amass the most wealth, I forget the exact statistics, but it's like Warren Buffett's like had like
Right.
90% of his wealth was from when he was like 80 on or something like I forget the exact
Yeah.
numbers, but the
Like
math is
65 or
unlinked.
something on something. Yeah.
Yeah, like everyone sees him as this like multi billionaire, and they just assume that when he was a kid, it was like started then. It's like
Mm-mm.
there was this
Yeah.
journey, right? And so it's like it
Right.
just kept going and just kept going, right? So I think that's super, super valuable for everybody. Well, man, I appreciate it. I enjoyed the conversation, and I know when I reached out is I think a lot of like my big message is I believe that like we are like the creators of our lives. We get to create our identity. We get to create the experiences that we want. We get to create the value that we provide to the world. And I believe that so much of that is shared through stories. I think that stories move people just like movies move people, right? It's just a
Mm.
story. It's just a different way to tell a story. And so I try to bring people on that have stories that are willing to share their stories that hopefully, whether it's a coach, whether it's an athlete, whether it's a parent, that moves them in that right direction to be able to take action, to be able to continue down um, a dream, a journey without like throwing in the white towel, so to speak. So I appreciate you being willing to jump on here and just give your insight, give your knowledge, and give your wisdom. And I guess lastly is as people, if they want to continue to follow your journey, reach out to you. I don't know if you're a big responder, but like if they have questions, like probably social media is probably the best. Where's the best way to kind of just continue to follow you?
Yeah, you can find me on social media on IG on Instagram. You can find me at jcampbell17. On Twitter it's jcam_17. And then if you like listen to a podcast, Believe in Everything Auburn podcast. It's
Yeah.
BLEAV. I Believe in Everything Auburn podcast. I do that with Taylor Beth Davis. who actually works for ESPN and kind of like SEC. So she covers a lot of games during season. So we're constantly on talking about sports and talking about, so much right now we're talking about, which is really good. People want to tune in there. And like I say, I do my own to Victory podcast for our collective at Auburn with all our players and athletes at Auburn. So, those were, you can really, really find me, like I said, on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn as well, just under my name. But, those are my platforms. Like I said, I'm not a heavy guy on IG, but I am on there quite a time to do some business stuff and just put out the podcasts and different things that we do. So, continue to support us there. Subscribe. Our subscriptions are free. If I believe, the more that we can get to listen and then follow, the more we can continue to put out products. So, I just appreciate the support.
Yep, that's the name of the game. Well, you guys go check out podcasts, go follow him, continue on this journey. And again, I appreciate you sharing the story. And to the audience, we'll see you next time.